The Bloody Society podcast presents.
On this episode, the price of immortality. Vampire boys and girls, welcome back. I'm Laércio. This is Scarlet. And tonight, we are doing something a little different.
Different is the right word.
We had a plan for tonight, a topic we have been wanting to explore for some time. The price of immortality. What the blood actually costs. What it takes from you that it never returns. We are going to get into that. And I want to be clear, this episode matters to me personally. Some of what we are going to discuss tonight I have never said on air before.
Nor have I.
But I also need to say, at some point tonight something may interrupt us. If it does, we will deal with it honestly, in real time, the way this show has always operated. You have trusted us with your stories, your questions, your darkest corners. We owe you the same in return. So, the price of immortality. Let's begin. A word on Venice before we dive in, because our inbox has not quieted since episode 1, and you deserve an acknowledgement. The situation in Venice is still developing. Our sources are still watching. We still do not have enough to report responsibly. What we can tell you is that the silence from certain quarters is becoming louder. And in our world, that is never a good sign. We are watching. You will hear it here first, always.
Always. Now, the price we pay.
The price of immortality. Let me ask you something, vampire boys and girls. When you were turned, or when you imagined being turned, what did you think you were gaining? What was the promise of it?
Time. Everyone thinks they are gaining time.
Time. Power. The end of fear. The end of the one thing that shadows every mortal life. The knowledge that it ends. And it is true. We gain all of those things. What nobody tells you, what the blood does not advertise, is what it removes in exchange.
The first thing it takes is urgency, and you don't notice until it's gone. Mortals live with a clock running underneath everything they do. Every meal, every conversation, every love affair has weight because it is finite. Time pressure creates meaning in a way that nothing else can. When you remove the clock, the weight changes. Not immediately, not all at once, but over decades, over centuries. Things that once felt vital begin to feel
Optional.
optional, yes. And that is the beginning of something very dangerous for a vampire. Because once enough things feel optional, once the urgency drains away from relationships, from purpose, from the simple act of getting out of bed before midnight, you are in territory that has claimed more of our kind than hunters ever have.
We don't talk about this. The vampire community does not have good language for it. Humans call it depression. That word doesn't quite fit what happens to us. It's something older, something that comes from a different kind of weight. The weight of accumulation. Every vampire who has lived beyond 2 centuries carries things that have no resolution. People they loved who are gone. Versions of themselves that no longer exist. Choices made in decades so distant They feel like they happen to someone else, and yet the consequences are still present, still alive, still walking around in the shape of the world they helped create.
Still walking around.
There is a name for it in the old vampire registries. Not depression, not grief. They called it the long dark. The period, usually somewhere between the 2nd and 4th century, when a vampire stops moving forward. Not physically. Physically they continue, but something underneath. The part that chooses, that wants, that reaches toward the next thing, goes quiet.
I know what that is.
Tell us.
I spent 40 years in it. Between 1887 and 1926, I functioned. I fed. I attended the gatherings, maintained the household, fulfilled every obligation. But nothing felt like it mattered. Not in the way it had before. Not in the way I knew it was supposed to. The world kept moving, and I kept watching it move, and the distance between me and everything in it was very wide, for a very long time.
What brought you back?
Someone chose me. Not my bloodline, not my age, not my usefulness. Just me. In the middle of the long dark, someone looked at the specific, particular, difficult truth of who I was and decided that was worth staying for. I did not make it easy for them.
You never do.
I never do. But they stayed. And slowly, over years, not overnight, the distance closed. Things began to matter again. Not the same things, different things, but things. I have never said that out loud before.
Vampire boys and girls, if you are in the long dark right now, we see you. It is not weakness. It is the cost of what we are, and it does not have to be permanent. You are not alone in it, even if it feels that way. Especially if it feels that way.
Especially then.
I want to say something I have not said on this show before. I went through the long dark. Not 2 centuries in, much earlier than that. 20 years after I was turned, which is unusual. Most vampires don't hit it that early. My maker said it was because I turned young, 26, and the gap between who I had been and what I had become was very wide. Too wide to cross quickly.
What did it feel like?
Like standing behind glass. Everything happening on the other side. People, noise, the world moving, and me watching it and not being able to reach through. I kept broadcasting. I kept showing up. I am a broadcaster. That is not a job for me. It is a reflex. It is the thing I reach for when everything else fails. So I kept talking. Into microphones, into cameras, to audiences who had no idea that the man on the other side of the glass was not entirely there. For 3 years. 3 years of being present in every external sense and completely absent in every way that mattered.
What brought you back?
Music. Not vampire music. Not the grand orchestral things, not the ancient chants. A record. A very ordinary record playing in a bar in London at 2 a.m. Something I had heard 100 times before. And that night it got through the glass. I don't know why that night and not any other, but it did. And I sat in that bar until dawn, listening to it on repeat. And by the time I left, something had shifted. Not fixed, not cured, just shifted. Enough to take a step. Sometimes that is all you need.
just enough to take one step.
What else the blood takes. The long dark is the most serious cost. But there are others, smaller ones. The ones that accumulate quietly over time until you turn around one day and realize something is simply missing.
The ability to be surprised. I miss being surprised. Not startled. Vampires are startled by almost nothing. But genuinely, completely surprised by something wonderful. The older you get, the more you have seen. The narrower the category of things that can catch you completely off guard. It happens still, occasionally. And when it does, it is extraordinary, because it is so rare.
Taste. Not the taste of blood, that sharpens, but the taste of ordinary things, the memory of them. I remember what coffee tasted like. I remember what bread smelled like, fresh from the oven, on a cold morning in London, when I was 23 years old. Those memories become very precise over time, and completely unreachable. You carry them perfectly, and you can never get back to them.
The smell of someone's hair, before, when everything was still warm.
The person you were. That one takes the longest to notice. In the first decades, you are still close enough to who you were before the blood that you can almost touch it. You remember their opinions, their fears, their particular way of moving through a room. The mortal self feels recent, adjacent. And then, slowly, across centuries, the distance grows. Not dramatically, not all at once, just incrementally. Until one evening you are sitting somewhere quiet and you try to remember what it felt like to be 26 years old and mortal and afraid of ordinary things. And you cannot. Not the feeling. You remember the facts. And I remember mine very precisely.
Tell us.
So I was born in Sao Paulo, raised in London, which is where the accent comes from, the education, the particular kind of repression that only a British upbringing can produce. I studied music at conservatoire, classical training, piano first, then guitar because the piano wouldn't fit in a bedsit. And I was good. Not extraordinary. Good. Which in London's music world in the 1950s meant comfortable obscurity and a very patient disposition.
Which you have never had.
Which I have never had. So one morning, I was 24, it was raining, which in London is not a distinguishing detail, but that morning it felt personal. I packed a bag, told no one, bought a one-way ticket to São Paulo. I told myself it was an identity search, which it was, but it was also running. From the conservatoire path I could see laid out in front of me for the next 40 years. From the version of myself that London had decided I was going to be.
And Sao Paulo?
Sao Paulo gave me back something I didn't know I had lost. The noise of it, the heat, the particular chaos of a city that has never once in its history agreed with itself about anything. I found a bar in Vila Madalena, Thursday nights, guitar mostly, sometimes piano if the bar had one worth playing. I was not remarkable at it, good enough to hold a room, not good enough to fill one. But the room was warm and the people were generous, and for the first time in my life, I felt like I was in the right place. That is where I found more than I was looking for. That is where the blood found me.
In the bar.
On a Thursday night, after the last set. My maker said she had been watching me play for 3 weeks before she approached me. She said, and I have thought about this for 60 years. She said she chose me because I played like someone who was looking for something and hadn't found it yet. She was not wrong. I just didn't know the something I was looking for was this. All of this. Eternity. The show. You. Though I would have appreciated a warning.
They never warn you.
They never warn you. When I was turned, I thought, I'll have time now, centuries to practice. I'll become extraordinary eventually. I never played again. Not once. After the turning, I picked up a guitar exactly one time, in 1974, in a hotel room in Lisbon. And I sat with it for an hour, and then I put it down, and I have not touched one since.
Why?
Because it sounded exactly the same as it always had. And I realized I had not become someone who plays guitar better. I had become someone who used to play guitar. The blood did not take the music away. It took the version of me that the music belonged to. And without him, it was just an instrument. Just strings and wood and silence.
Laércio.
The broadcasting filled the space eventually. Words instead of notes. Same impulse. The need to reach someone across a room. I found a way back to myself, just a different version, which I think is the most honest thing I can say about surviving immortality. You don't preserve who you were. You cannot. You build who you are next, over and over again, for as long as the blood carries you. And if you are very lucky, if you pay attention, the new versions are worth knowing.
Some of them are extraordinary.
And yet, and I want to say this clearly, I would not undo it. I would not go back. The cost is real, and I carry it honestly. But what the blood gives, the depth of connection possible when you have centuries to practice it, the particular quality of a love that has survived enough to know itself, the experience of watching the world transform and finding yourself still curious about what comes next. It is worth the price. For me. It is worth the price.
For me as well. Despite everything. For me as well.
We will be right back. There is a particular feeling, and every vampire who travels knows exactly what I mean, of arriving in an unfamiliar city after dark and not knowing where it is safe to be what you are. The Safe House Network solves that. Every major city, every continent. Pre-vetted, dark veil compliant, tinted windows guaranteed, blood supply arrangements available upon request. Always open after dark, always discreet, never a single question you don't want to answer. I keep their app next to the archive on my phone. The Safe House Network, because home is wherever you don't have to explain yourself. And we are back. Scarlet, I want to continue with something you said before the break, about what the blood gives back, because I think there is something we haven't touched on yet. The way that centuries of loss actually... Sorry.
Laércio.
Hold on.
What is it?
Vampire boys and girls. I need to step out of our scheduled program for a moment. I have just received a breaking news alert from 3 separate supernatural sources simultaneously. When 3 independent sources send the same alert at the same time, that does not happen unless something is confirmed.
Read it.
Multiple fires reported across supernatural safe houses in Venice and surrounding lagoon territories. Poveglia confirmed active. Vampire casualties reported. Community advised to avoid the lagoon and surrounding territories until further notice. Source blood activity detected in the area. This is not a drill.
Source blood activity.
Source blood activity confirmed in Venice. Vampire boys and girls, we are going to set aside what we were discussing and deal with this directly. Because this is why this show exists. Not for the gossip, not for the history lessons, for this. For the moments when our community needs someone to say clearly what is happening. So let us be very clear about what this alert means.
Safe houses are burning. Multiple locations. This is not random. Safe houses are specifically chosen for their discretion and their protection. To hit multiple safe houses simultaneously requires coordination, intelligence, and access to information that should not be available to anyone outside the supernatural community. This is not an outside attack. Someone with inside knowledge is responsible for this.
Someone inside our community.
Yes.
And source blood activity. For our listeners who may not fully understand what that means, source blood is the rarest, most powerful supernatural substance in existence. Its presence in an area is not incidental. It does not simply appear. Someone with source blood is in Venice, or something involving source blood has been done there. Either of those possibilities is
catastrophic. Either of those possibilities is catastrophic.
If you are in Venice or the surrounding lagoon territories, leave. Now. Do not wait for more information. Do not investigate. Contact the Safe House Network for alternative arrangements outside the area. The Dark Veil is your first priority. Your safety is your first priority. For everyone else, stay alert. What happens in Venice rarely stays in Venice, not with source blood involved.
Eric is in Venice.
I know.
We do not know his status. We do not know the status of the Lockhart household. We do not have enough information to report anything specific. What we have are 3 confirmed alerts, multiple fires, and source blood.
We are going to stay on this. Every update we receive, you will hear here first. Write to us. contact@thevampireshow.com. If you have information, if you have eyes on the ground, if you know something, tell us. Anonymously if you need to. We protect our sources, always. And vampire boys and girls, to whoever is responsible for what is happening in Venice right now, we are watching. And so is everyone else.
We began tonight talking about the price of immortality, what the blood costs, what it takes that it never returns. I did not expect to end it here, with fires in Venice and source blood in the lagoon, and the particular sick feeling that comes from recognizing a pattern you have seen before. But perhaps that is the most honest answer to the question we were asking. The price of immortality is not just the long dark, or the lost urgency, or the taste of bread you will never get back. The price of immortality is that you live long enough to watch the same darkness return. Different faces, different century, the same darkness. And you have to decide, every time, whether you are still willing to stand in its way.
Whether you are still willing to stand in its way. Vampire boys and girls, that is our show for tonight. Stay safe, stay alert, stay behind the dark veil. And if you are in Venice, get out.
Stay bloody gorgeous, Darklings. And watch each other's backs tonight.
Stay safe out there. All of you.
This is Laércio, your favorite vampire streamer, signing off.
And this is Scarlet, spoiled brat vampire extraordinaire.
You're listening to the Bloody Society podcast, transmitting for you live, kind of, from our private studio in the dark corner of the interweb. Don't miss our weekly episodes.
Until next time. Stay bloody gorgeous, darlings.
Okay, we're out.
Okay. What the hell?
Yeah, I'm looking. Hold on. Okay, I've got 17 messages
17?
in the last 4 minutes. 2 from the archive, 1 from, I don't even know this number, and 1 from someone in Murano saying the sky above the lagoon is orange.
Orange.
Orange, at night, over Venice. What the actual fuck?
That's really, really bad.
Yeah, no kidding. Have you tried Ivan?
Ivan hasn't taken unsolicited calls since 1987. I tried before we went on air.
Before we went on, you knew?
I had one source, unconfirmed.
Scarlet.
I wasn't going to blow up the episode over one unconfirmed source, Laércio.
The safe houses were burning while we were doing the intro.
Possibly. Yes.
Deus meo. Okay. What about Tristan?
Venice.
Right. What about the cool one? The American, Philip?
Also Venice.
Of course. The whole damn household. Elisa?
Voicemail.
Scarlet. How bad is this? Honestly.
I genuinely don't know. And I can't remember the last time I said that. 3 centuries and I can't. The safe houses. Poveglia. Source blood active. And nobody in that city picking up. I don't know what this is. I don't know what we're looking at. And that scares the hell out of me.
Yeah. Same. Hey, are we still live?
We're still... Oh, God.
Vampire boys and girls. You didn't hear any of that. We're just gonna... Yeah. Good night. Good night, everyone.
I cannot believe.
Someone definitely hit that button.